Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the EmpowerMAN podcast. It's your boy, Mikey G, coming to you live from the free state of Florida on this beautiful Thursday afternoon. It's sunny in Florida, but it's a little frigid up in Stamford, Connecticut. But that's all right, because I am joined by the human furnace himself, the man who will not be debating Governor DeSantis or Governor Newsom tonight. He is the man who always calls it like he sees it. He is the patriot, the parent, the friend, the family man. He is the man. Whenever he walks into a bar, everyone knows his name. Mr. Greg A. Fedora, numero uno. Greggy T, how are you, sir? Happy Thursday.
Namaste, sir.
Yes, it is a very namaste. Always want peace coming. We have about 3-4 weeks left in the year, getting ready for the holidays. I put my tree up. Greggy T, your tree up?
Tree is up. I have like 1,000 lights on it. You can land a plane here.
That's awesome.
And I'm doing the outdoor lights at some point this week.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I will say, I'm not going to get into politics this early, but I will not be watching tonight's debate with DeSantis and the piece of shit from California. But I will say, look at that state. He's doing a bang-up job. Good job, buddy. Just stay away from Washington, please.
Yeah, I don't. I may watch it.
It's pretty much the worst state, in my opinion.
That New York and Illinois, it's 1, 2, 3. I mean, however you want to put it. It's crazy. It'll be entertaining. And we talked about that before we came on the air, right? It's all about. Sometimes it's not about knowledge. It's about entertaining people, and
he's an. I'll give. Yep, I was gonna say I'll give him that. He is charismatic. He's a good speaker, and he presents well. But I also know a lot of drug dealers that do that too. So what does that tell you? Just saying.
Kind of reminds me of that senator, was he a congressman from Illinois whenever he started? I forgot, back in 2004, and he became president of the United States. So, there's a certain pattern that we're seeing. I just saw how there's a mysterious pneumonia now floating around in China.
Yeah,
it's ironic that we're a year out from the election, and I think everyone just needs to be smart and needs to plan. Be on your guard. I think
You're absolutely right. Be on your guard. Be healthy, and eat good. Work out. Get your immunity up, and get your supplies. That's all you can do.
Excuse me. Yes. And
speaking of that, Mike,
I never cough after 33. This is our 33rd episode, right? 33 is your favorite number, and I'm coughing. And
you got that pneumonia, sir.
I probably just jinxed myself.
Got that new variant.
The election variant is going around, and I am probably,
You're
I'm probably spewing it out.
Super spreader in Delray over there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm always attending super spreader events. Well, actually, there'll be a super spreader event this weekend when I be wrestling in Hialeah, Florida. So that'll be I'm sure that'll be one for the ages.
Shout out to my boy who is a Hialeah police officer. So, Mike, you have the key to the city that night. You can do whatever you want, and it's all good. Dilton, my homeboy, my business partner in Cielo Rum. Shout out to him.
Ooh, and Cielo Rum. When can we expect Cielo Rum out in the stores?
Early 2024, man. It is almost in production now. We got the bottles, the label. We're waiting on like some federal approval. The amount of hurdles in the liquor business is comical. It's comical. Distribution, all sorts of stuff. But we're almost there. We're like step 8 out of 10. 10 is on shelves, so we're close.
Well, I'm sure because, after the last pandemic, we saw that alcohol was kind of sales surge, so the government...
Yeah, we got to get it out. Got to get it out.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yes.
We'll be attending, I think it's the 40th reunion of Miami Vice or something like that. The TV show will be in Miami. Our boy and I are working on heading down there, Mike. Just saying, might want to grab the boat.
Wow.
And we'll probably end up in the Keys because that's what happens. So it's all good.
Yes. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. That sounds like a definitive plan.
It does.
But
moving right along.
I definitely want to give a shout out to our first responders, our EMTs, our firemen and women, our policemen and women. Thank you for all that you do for keeping our communities and local municipalities nice and safe and sound.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys and girls. And shout out to all the military personnel here and overseas, as well as their families. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for protecting us. And watch your ass out there.
And also prayers for Israel that once they get this ceasefire done, they go
Such a
out and
joke.
finish the job.
Don't get me started on that.
Unfortunately. But Greggy T, we got an interesting episode. We had a lot of great feedback from our ghosting episode. A lot of people that we know have been ghosted,
Yeah.
and the effects of it, and how
Yeah.
it's kind of like
Of
it's a
all
week
ages,
usually.
both guys and girls.
Does not matter.
Does not matter.
And I think along those lines, Greggy T, it's kind of like when we talked about this episode, it's there's so many titles that we could call it, right? Because I think we tend to fabricate visions of people in our minds when we first meet somebody. Oh, he's perfect. He's got a great job, comes from a good family. And then like a month in, you're like, oh, he's a raging alcoholic. Maybe he's not the right fit for me. Or, oh my God, she's great. She's perfect. She's got
She
a
checks
job.
all the boxes, right? Checks all the boxes on paper. The pedigree's good.
Right. And then
she's an
something
asshole.
happened, right? Or she'll just ghost you.
Yeah.
And you're like, what's going on?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a weird episode in that we need to be careful not to fabricate or create an image of somebody in our minds. It's kind of like the evil trickster or the imposter syndrome, but on other people. Mm-hmm. And Greggy T, here's one thing. I'm guilty of this, but I want to get your perspective on this. Have you ever tried to make a girl something that they are not capable of?
Listen, if you're guilty of something, I'm probably right next to you, guilty as well. So, your question. Yeah, I think when I was younger, definitely. And it wasn't intentional or had like any negative, connotations to it. It's just I think when I'll take this way back, growing up as a kid, little kid, toddler playing, I came from great parents, I had a great relationship, great marriage. So you see things. And then when you get to the point where you start meeting girls or dating later on in life, you have a certain pattern that or a shape that you want to fit them in. So I grew up with this circle, and I'm going to take that person and put them in the circle, and they're not a circle. They're probably a square. And it's not the fault of the girl or anything. It's just they're not a circle. And also the circle is not me. That was their thing and what they showed me. So I'm different. And I think that's what caused certain things to try to make somebody, something that they're not. And also influenced by whatever TV shows, movies back in the day, music. You could add all of that into the mix. None of this is negative. It's just that's how I think in my brain. I try to preconceive somebody to fit in a box.
So give me an example of a TV show or music that influenced you, or even a movie.
Ooh. A movie, Top Gun.
Of course. Of course.
And look at Kelly McGillis now. Anyway, but yes, that was a very influential movie, I think. And a TV show. Oh, that's a good one, man. I mean, I remember like Miami Vice back in the day, even though he wasn't really in like relationships, but just certain women like Daisy from the Dukes of Hazzard,
of course,
super attractive, or whatever. And then but they're cool because they're on TV. But you think they're cool in like life, and they're that cool in a relationship. So you try to make the girls you meet fit that stigma, and I'm sure when the shoe's on the other foot, it can go that way too.
Oh yeah, I'll tell you what got me was Family Ties. Dude, I always wanted to be like Alex P. Keaton. He was one of my favorite TV characters ever. And like when he met, actually he met his wife on Family Ties. She played his girlfriend.
That's right.
And that whole episode was just awesome. Like I loved how they fell in love and all that stuff, and like good and wholesome, and that was awesome. And that song that they played by Billy Vera and the Beaters, like that is
Yeah.
always had like a great like song like playlist. Like I think every guy has a go-to playlist, and that was on there. Foreigner, I want to know what love is was awesome.
I
That's
think
definitely on there.
a very influential show for me was what the Wonder Years.
Oh yeah.
That crushed me. That was a it was a good time in my life. I think I was like junior high school, so those are the best years of my life, by the way. 6th and 7th grade, in my
Oh yeah.
opinion, best
Yeah,
years of my
we're good.
life.
Eighth
But
grade was mine.
okay, and I just think the Wonder Years really nailed it, and they did a great job with Kevin and Winnie growing up as little kids, and then trying to date, and then I remember like the last episode, they were both married separately with their families, and it was like blew my mind. I'm like, what? How's that possible? But that's closer to real life, in my opinion. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I always like as we got into the '90s, it was like Dylan and Brenda. Love, loved Brenda. She's still one of my favorites. That was it, and but it's so funny how you brought about your parents and marriage. So you and I are
yeah,
complete opposites. Where I did not have that. My parents divorced when I was younger, so I didn't see that pattern, and it kind of even at where I'm at my life right now, you still have to it kind of remember not to take that image of what used to be and the image of what it really is in regards to what you're looking for and how to I didn't have the manual back then on how to put the
yeah.
right shape in the right spot. It
Hmm.
was just trial and error, but I would get frustrated and try to put that star in the circle and get a hammer and hammer that and shimmy
Of
it in there
course.
for most of my life, because you want things to work out, because I think deep down inside we all want to love somebody, but I think it's more important for us to give our love away. Like we want to be loved. Like, of course, who doesn't want to be loved? But I
Hmm.
think the biggest thing is that we all want to just give our love to somebody. We want to show somebody our love. And every person, man, woman, animal, everyone's capable of love. It's either they don't have the rules or they don't have the patternization to know how to express their love, but also to receive love. It's
Yeah.
something that we don't talk about is receiving love, and I'm not good at it. I'm working on it, but I'm more of a giver, less than a taker. What about you? What would you say? You got a little both, or do you tend to be more than one than the other?
I'm more of a giver, like you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always have been. I mean, I went to college in Florida, and it was a great experience. So I went to FAU. When I went to FAU, there was like 4 buildings. It's like a
Wow.
fucking city now, which is
It's
awesome.
big.
But when I
It's
went there,
big.
it was very small, which
Yeah.
was great. It was more of a commuter college, but I went down there for swimming, and I learned quickly because it was more of a real world situation. It wasn't like your typical college where you wore like plaid shirts and you went to frat parties. Like we were out in the world in Boca, and we were in Miami and Fort Lauderdale back in the days, and it was a different lifestyle. It was more of the real world as opposed to college life. I'm not knocking college life because I went to visit some friends. I had a great time, but it was two different worlds. And when they came down to Florida to visit me and they stayed with me and we're going out for the night, and I'm like, you can't wear that. They're like, what do you mean? This is like khakis and a plaid shirt. I'm like, yo, you won't even get in with that. Like, you need to dress like you got to mac out and look good, but
Right.
look older and just fit in with real world, not college. We're not going to a college bar. There's like real women here and real men here, and it was awesome. You grew up super super
Sure.
fast, and I don't think it was a bad thing at all. It's a gift and a curse, like we spoke about in a previous episode. But getting to the point of this conversation, when I was in college and we're out and about at like clubs and stuff like that, you meet a girl and you think you want her to be a certain way, like we spoke about,
Sure.
and sometimes they're just not good.
Yeah.
They're doing their thing, and I'm not knocking them because we've all done it, but they just aren't at that place, and they're just doing their thing. And it's a hard road to navigate as a young man.
It's
You got to
huge.
you got to learn.
Well, most guys too are attracted by the lust.
Of
I mean,
course, of course.
and I'm not, and I'm not going to sit here and say like beauty isn't important to me. It is. It's just I've learned through life experiences, and something I haven't done in a while is reference the Bible. Ephesians 2:10 talks about we're all God's masterpiece, right? We're all created to be beautiful. Even the saddest thing to me is when someone, and this is where I love my coaching business and that I have, is when people don't like themselves and they don't love themselves, and you bring the beauty out in them. Everyone is beautiful. Everyone. E- Everyone. Just because you and I might not be attracted to somebody doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there that finds them. You can find someone's personality so attractive. I mean, there are so many
Yeah.
people I know that are just beautiful human beings. And I think guys, most guys, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but we usually think like sex first, right? It's usually like, oh, she's hot. Or I think I can think of a handful of people that I met when I first met them. I was like, wow, they're gorgeous. And then the attraction changed from the physical to the heart. And
Hmm.
they're still some of my closest friends to this day. I mean, of course, we don't talk all the time, but we have that relationship, and it's just like, wow, it's super cool. Like, when you first met someone, you're visually stimulated, and then you get past that
Hmm.
and you get into the heart of the matter. And we're all attractive. We are all God's masterpiece. All of us are, and I think the biggest thing is growing up, I always felt rejected by everybody. And I was like, the hell with this, man. I was, didn't mean to use that word, but yeah,
Leave the cursing to me,
when
Mike.
I'm trying, right? I'm really trying, right? So when I got into bodybuilding and I tried to get into fitness modeling when I was younger, and I was all about it. And I said, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z with my life, and I did. And even to this day, when I get rejected, it just turns that fire. It can be tough at times because it can weigh you down, and it can just get tired because it's just like how many times I have to prove. Like I feel like I have to prove myself. And I think a lot of guys feel that way. Not just with women or men, if that's your preference, but just like in a job or in a sport. It's like you
Mhm.
got the ability, and like you can't break through that glass ceiling, and it just keeps it. You can use it as a motivator to just keep pushing through and say, "The heck with this!" Like I'm going to prove to you. And I think we see that in the generational divide in work ethic, where people expect it to be handed to them. Others tend to take the old school approach like we used to have and work for it.
Mhm.
So I think one of the reasons that one of the things that we have to be careful of as men is and women too is not fall into that trap. And I also want to ask you this question, Greg: why do we have a hard time accepting people where they're at?
Because I think our timelines in life aren't aligned.
Mm,
So what I mean by that is we have a hard okay, go back to that example in college. Okay, you meet a girl at a club, whether it's in Miami, whatever, super hot, super attractive, but she's out doing her thing. She's maybe a little promiscuous or doing her thing, which is fine.
mm.
But you are looking for something maybe a little different. Maybe initially you're looking for that, but maybe you want to date her or whatever, and she's just not ready yet. So you have a hard time accepting her lifestyle. And it's just a timing thing, in my opinion. And I think roles are reversed. When I used to ride a lot of motorcycles in Florida with my peeps and the different groups I rode in, I would meet people out, and I know that lifestyle turned them off to me, and they had a hard time accepting that. So I get it, and it was just a timing thing.
Yeah, and I want to follow up with that too. I think a lot of it too has to come with just accepting yourself.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, and guilty of sin, accepting yourself. I think if you can accept yourself, you can accept others no matter where you are in your life. Some people may not be ready for a relationship. Some people may not be ready to work with you. Some people may not be ready to, you, whatever the situation might be. Some people may not be ready, and we
Yeah.
can't force our timeline, like you had mentioned, onto someone. And we got to be careful of that. And I think that kind of carries into my next question for you. What are the dangers that people can face when you force what you want onto someone? What can that lead to?
It could actually what came to the first thing that popped in my head when you asked that, the first thing it could lead to is you might part ways and never talk to that person again. And that could be a bad thing. That's silly. And it doesn't have to be that extreme. But it's that extreme because of trying to force that square shape into that round hole that I said earlier. And you can really turn that other person off where they don't want anything to do with you. And I don't blame them because I've been on the other side of that where I was pressed too hard or questioned too much. And I'm just like, I'm done. Like, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. That's it. So it's definitely a two-way street, and it's a dangerous thing because you could lose a potentially good friendship or a relationship. And I don't mean a boyfriend girlfriend relationship, but you might miss out on an actually good relationship, friendship.
Yeah. And I think for the person that's trying to force that on them and the dangers of that, and we've been in, I think you and I have been in some situations where you keep trying, you hang in there. So you know a situation's toxic, you know someone's toxic, even though the eye is craving that, right? That visual stimulation, and you stick around, and then that leads to anxiety, that leads to anger, depression. Then you start looking at alcohol or other types of ways to kind of deal with that type of stress. And it's like you almost kind of need that stress or you need that stimulus to get you going. It's like if she's happy, I'm happy. If he's happy, I'm happy. If my business partner's happy, I'm happy. When it's like, wait a second, this is not the right spot for me. I can't make Greg to think like me. I can't make my business partner to think like me. I can't make a girl that I'm seeing to think like me. So I think one of the things that we need to be aware of as men is having that self-awareness.
Absolutely. And I also think while you're in that headspace of all the things you just listed, you could be turning off somebody that has their eye on you or that is potentially interested in you, and you're giving off some really incredibly shitty energy. And they are going to eventually pick up on that if they're into you, and they're going to be like, I thought they were a certain way and I don't want to pursue this. Or you might turn them off when it's just because you're in your own head, like you said, doing all those things. And if you weren't in your head, then you would be more open and you would give off a different energy, and that it might attract that other person.
Yeah, and it's important to, when you're in a situation like that, not to isolate yourself. We talk about isolation a lot because we know what's coming down the pike socially in 2024. I hope people that are
They're going to
listening can
try.
kind of
They'll try.
hope they can, kind of get that stuff. But that's not you're trying to isolate yourself, Greg. And for other people out there, and I think when you isolate yourself, you're when you're alone again, you're getting your own head, and
Mhm.
then you when you're in your own head, you create the false narratives. And Greg, another question I want to get to is why do you think we put expectations on people? Why do we expect someone to be a certain way instead of allowing them to show us who they are?
It's a good question. I think we do it because we have a preconceived vision of what we think we might want. And it might not be the case. We think we want that over there, but we really don't need it, and we don't really want it. It might be socially acceptable, or it might be what your friends are doing, or it might be, the right thing to do in society, but it doesn't fit. So I think that has to do with just like a false sense of what you think you need. I that's hard to. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know and I'll try to reword it.
No, that was spot on, and we can carry that a little bit further. I think we put expectations on people because we want something to work so badly. It's
Yeah.
like somebody that hasn't been in a relationship for a while. They meet somebody that's like 80% cool.
Hmm.
He's a great guy. He's got a job. He's got this. I want this to work. I want to ignore those red flags that you talk about sometimes because
Yeah.
I don't care because I just want to be with somebody. So people settle for things, and that can lead to a whole other domino effect
It
of
opens up a whole
crap.
bunch of other doors that you don't want to go through.
No, absolutely not. And I think we need to be careful not
Yeah.
to put expectations because no one's perfect.
No.
No one I know, there's a perfect person that walked this earth 2023 years ago. Yeah.
Spoiler alert, there's no perfect person.
Spoiler alert. Yes.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, we need to make sure. And I think one of the things that I'm guilty of is lacking patience and understanding, like, hey, like everyone's nuances are the nuances, and it's like, it's a matter of adaptability. We all have to adapt, especially when you like someone or love someone. You can speak to it more than I can because I love my personal space. But there's also times where I like being around people, and I think for me, and I think for a lot of guys can relate. It's just you got to adapt to people because not everyone's going to have the same habits as you, right? I
Yeah.
mean, when you moved in with your now wife, I mean, how was that process? I mean, how did you adapt to her
There's a lot of
living
cleaning
and your
up.
living?
A lot of cleaning up. Um, it's an adjustment because everyone lives a certain way,
Yeah,
and if you decide to live with somebody, you gotta take the bad with the good. I don't know how else to put it. Like when our softball team back in the day, we would travel and take trips together and go to Florida and stuff. Our boy Justin and I would room together always. Number one, we're into the same shit, but we're super clean and we travel super buttoned up. And we're not like college kids where shit's thrown everywhere and it's a disaster. They can't find their socks or this or that. You walk into a room and it's like, this is embarrassing. I don't even want to sit down. There's no place to sit down.
right.
So I think when you decide to live with somebody, you got to understand that I don't care how clean the person is, it's always an adjustment.
Yeah.
And I still battle with, like what you said, patience, and not, like you said, not everybody's on your time frame, and I have a hard time with not everybody thinks like you. I'm
Exactly.
usually like 5 steps ahead of people, and I can't expect other people to be like that. And when they're not, I get a little frustrated, but then I have to check myself, like I can't do that because that's not fair.
It's not.
Even though it fucking annoys me and it still gets me pissed, I can't give them shit for it, or I can't get upset or start an argument about it because it's false grounds to do that.
But I think it's a two-way street, though. I think, like girls in general, I mean, I'm sure girls are probably more patient in a certain sense than guys. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. My experience
Yeah.
is that girls that I've, you know, been involved with not had patience. And it's like, you'll give patience to a guy that treats you like garbage.
Huh.
But like, oh, Mike didn't wipe down the counter. I'm out.
I saw a clip.
Right?
This just reminded me of something. I saw a clip.
Right?
I forgot what show it was on, and there was it was an older woman, attractive, whatever, and she was saying that she went on a date. The guy picked her up at her house and opened the car door for her and did all the things you and I talk about, that how we
Mhm.
grew up and were taught to do. All the chivalry stuff. Like, it was great. She goes, I missed all of these things because I haven't had it in a while. He did everything perfect. And I'm like, where's she going with this? Like, it sounds great. She goes, but I was bored. What? You want all these things. Now you have all these things. And she doesn't want it because she hasn't had it in a long time and she was bored. Confused me, man. Like, it was wild to hear that. It was
And she's
wild.
old and she's older, so you would expect
She was
life
like our age.
experiences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was. I'll try to send it to you if I find it. It was weird, man. It blew my mind. So
Yeah, strange.
it's like a woman saying, "I want ABC." Okay, I'm a guy. Here's ABC. Oh, you're boring. Okay. Her friends are like, their minds were blown too. I was like, this is the weirdest shit that I've seen in a while. It made no sense, but she was being honest. So what are you to do? You know? And she ghosted him, by the way. She never called him back. Mm-hmm. So that guy, hopefully, just kept it moving. Like we said, you did everything right. Don't take it out on the next girl you take out.
Yeah, I agree.
Still be a gentleman. Still do your thing. And because there is one out there that will respect and appreciate those things, and that actually wants those things, not just says they want it. They actually want it.
It's wild.
It's insane. It just made me think of that because I was like, I wish I had a picture of my face watching. I was like,
Me too.
I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it.
And I think a lot of girls, when we talked about this, they always go back to what's familiar.
Of
And I
course.
think, and guys too, if you're if you're a guy that dates guy, if alternative lifestyles, I'm sure it's the same thing, right? It's all people always, for the most part, we see people and we've known people. And it's not necessarily true, but most people usually revert back to what is comfortable, what's normal for them.
I'm only laughing because I just thought of the one person that um, woke you up one night when I think we broke into your apartment or whatever. I don't know. Remember that? You got woken up, fitness model.
Yeah, I do remember.
Yes. Okay. I
Mm,
just thought about that because always goes back to the same type of guy.
yeah,
I don't want that, but you go back to that. So anyway,
yeah, yeah. It's weird. It's
go
weird
wake
because I
Mike up.
watched. It's weird how the evolution, when you see things, you experience things, and
Yeah.
you see like, okay, so maybe I didn't do this, but is that like, I mean, like 95% of this was done correctly, like, and that 5%. But if the shoe was on the other foot, oh, you're crazy. This,
And here's the
so
thing:
it's funny.
it's like it's wild because if you don't have a strong head, doing the 95% correct and getting that outcome or that result, that can mess you up.
Sure can.
Mentally, that could really screw you up. And it shouldn't at all. If you go to bat 10 times and you're hitting 9 out of 10, you're crushing it. You should be all systems go, happy, confident, like, and when that happens and you don't get a result, it really mess you up.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's where life experience comes into play, where it's just like, you just keep moving. Like,
Listen, I'm going to be honest. This may sound weird.
hmm.
I'm like the Matrix now. When I'm out there and you tell me these stories with these girls, I just see those green letters and numbers trickling down. I'm like, oh, it's this, it's that. I could see it 5 miles
Oh, yeah.
ahead.
Oh, yeah. And it's just like you see it, and you're just like,
But
thank
keep
God.
sleeping on my boy. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
hmm
thank God. Like, thank God.
hmm Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
you did me a favor, or another person a
Yep.
favor. Or, you know, um, it's just interesting how as you go through life, you see different things. I hope most guys that are our age or that are getting up there, every relationship and every person you come in contact with is going to help you grow in certain ways, both for the better, hopefully not for the worse, but you can see these things, which kind of leads to my next question. How do we create the life we want with the right people?
I think it creates itself if they're the right people. I don't think it's a lot of hard work to create a good life when you have all the good people around you, when you're in the right relationship, when you have the right friends. I don't think it's effort. I just think it just self manifests and it just keeps going and it's all good. I think it's work and it's harder when it's not the right person.
Right.
That's what I think.
Right. And it's almost like you gotta eliminate the garbage out of your life. That's first and foremost. You
Man,
gotta
if you
eliminate
looked
the
at my
garbage.
phone, I have like not a lot of contacts and I'm proud
Yeah.
of that and I've had that for a long time. Everyone's like, "Oh, I know so many people." Okay, that's great. I mean, I can count on both hands true friends, guys and girls.
100%. Hundred
And I
percent.
like it like that.
100%. I agree.
Yep.
And I also think too, you gotta get what's out of your brain into the universe. Like you had the pattern with your mom and dad, that great marriage, right? And you knew, okay, I've got the blueprint of what I want later in life. Here you are now, right? Married, 2 kids, right? So great
Trying,
family life,
trying.
great home, right? Well, Bidenomics has helped out with that, right?
Yeah, of course, of course, of course.
Anyway,
Anyway,
moving on. But yeah, you had that blueprint and whatnot. I think having whether you have that blueprint or not, I think having the visualization of what you want, the type of friendship you want, the type of business relationship you want, the different we're the gatekeepers of what we want. Like even
absolutely.
when you work with like let's say you work with a promoter or whatever it is that you're working, like you are the gatekeeper. You know
Mhm.
what you want, you manifest. It may not happen today, but if you keep putting the energy out there, at one point the doorbell is going to ring and opportunity is going to come
I
knocking.
agree. You're absolutely right.
you know and along those lines, Greggy T, let me ask you another question. What are some warning signs, or you call them red flags? What are some warning signs of people that you meet that you feel you can fix or change, like your friend there that woke me up?
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot going on, right?
Well, yeah.
So what signs did you see to say, all right, it may not be this, but it could be this. Like I can't fix this person or change this person, so I just got to let her do her thing.
We dated in Florida a long time ago, and this is gonna sound bad. Um, I went to pick her up. I was on my motorcycle. I went to pick her up. She lived in Fort Lauderdale, and when I saw her place where she lived, red flag, man. Just a red flag. It was a little weird. But overlooked that and got to know her more. Okay. And we were young, whatever.
Mm.
And she was big fitness model, traveling a lot, doing all that stuff, that supplements and all that stuff. That's how we met, actually, in my store. And she had a great family. I mean, when we were getting to know each other and talking and communicating, she had a tight relationship with her parents. But I don't know what happened there. Something went not
South.
wrong,
Right.
but something just hooked a left when the road was going
Mm.
straight. And it was off a little. Had a great time, hung out like super cool with all my friends, like had a ball. It was great. But it was just something off. And then fast forward years later, I don't even know how that got going, but when she was in New York, had a great time. I think
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
she was like visiting. I don't even know, not me visiting. And then she like hit me up. She's like, "Hey, I'm in the city," and I'm like, "Okay." I think we crashed a wedding in Central Park randomly, not on purpose. We were just there, and then drinking and stuff. And then that's when we came back
Hmm.
to the apartment because I lived downstairs. Mike lived upstairs. So,
True.
oh, Mike has to go to work in 3 hours. Let's go wake him up. Anyway, so it was, but hearing all that and talking to her that night, like it was great because the past memories, but man, she was still off and still dating a guy that was like abusive physically, like all sorts of
Crazy.
shit. I think he like broke her nose. I don't know, did something. It was crazy. And so there was always something off is my point. And it was just weird. And it's unfortunate. And I don't know what, I could never figure out what it was, especially given her good family. Something happened somewhere.
But you never got close enough to say, well, I'm going to try to fix this girl or change her.
I fix it and change her maybe in Florida because we were dating, like we were like New York was just that time. But when we were in Florida, when I was living there, yeah, we were dating for a while, and I was trying to iron out and get to the nucleus of whatever problem or whatever happened, and I never got to it. Never got to it.
Right. So what do you think the difference? How can someone delineate between helping someone, fixing someone, and changing someone? That's a big
I don't
help, fix, or
think
change.
helping. is good. Fixing's borderline dangerous, and changing is a no-no, in my opinion.
Right.
We shouldn't try to change somebody, especially now that I'm older. I don't care. I'm not trying. We're not trying to change anybody. You can't change anybody. I don't think after like 4 years old anyway. But I don't think you should try to change anybody. You're not going to.
Right.
You can help them or maybe show them different lenses or outlets or options to do things or make decisions. But changing, no. Helping, yes. If they had a traumatic experience in the past, maybe you could try to help them look at it differently or give them another outlet to help their feelings with that or whatever. But I don't think you're going to change them, and I don't think you want to change somebody because let's just say that's your goal is to change somebody and it doesn't work out.
Right.
They're going to hold that against you, and they're going to resent you for it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So
I agree with that.
I'm all
And
for helping somebody, but I'm not going to waste my time helping somebody in a relationship that doesn't want to be helped. And that
right.
may sound cruel or harsh, but why would anybody do that? I want somebody to hit the ball back to me. I don't want you to hit the ball against the wall and play with myself. I want somebody to hit it back and hit it,
Exactly.
back and forth. That's what I want. So,
You want to play tennis, not racquetball.
mhm,
And
mhm.
it's funny you say that because when you want to help someone, you're kind of giving them the tools they need for them to do it on their own. Whereas work, when you fix somebody, it's like I got to go in and do all this work so that they can see it.
And you and I
Right.
were guilty of this.
Oh, yeah.
We tried this when we were younger, and look at those results. That was great. But we learned from it. I don't regret it. I know you
No,
don't.
no.
But I also learned I don't want to do that.
Right. And you got to be careful too that you don't, at least for me, because I'm not, in a relationship that the first people that I meet, that I don't, because I try to help people every day or fix them or help them with their problems,
Mhm.
that I don't carry that into my personal life because again, that can lead to another, not a waste of time, but it's like you're playing racquetball. You're
Yeah,
expecting the ball to go through the cement, waiting for somebody on the other side to hit the ball back to you when it's just falling on deaf ears.
absolutely.
Right. So those are some great points you made there, Greggy
Yeah.
T. So it kind of, going into the wrapping this up here, we still have, some time left. How do we change ourselves, Greg, so we don't fall into this trap? How do we look at things from what we used to look at it like, oh, she's so hot, but she's got, abusive past. And I know if I just hang in there, I can help her. But we know that's not really good for both parties. So when we look at ourselves, how do we change ourselves so that we don't get into that trap or get into that situation?
That's a tough question. I mean, you use the term take stock. I guess, for me, I just want to remind myself what I want and what I don't want. And then I go over again in my head what my non negotiables are. One of my non negotiables is wasting my time trying to help somebody or fix somebody. Not, I don't mean help. I'll help them, but
I get it. I get it.
I don't want to waste my time fixing somebody. It's just, in our 20s, I think we've been there and done that. And it's a
Yeah.
waste of time. So I just think take a step back and think about what you want and how you think this is going to go. When you meet somebody and you're starting to see red flags, you should have a sit down with yourself and you say, "Okay, I've seen a couple red flags. Do I hit the eject button right now? Or do I try to have a conversation to get to where this might be coming from? Because you're not fixing them. You just want to find out why that is. Because you might be able to help them. And because some red flags aren't permanent,
Right.
I think some red flags can be fixed. I know
I
that's a
do
bad
too.
word, but I think
I do
some can
too.
be fixed or helped where they won't be red flags again. So I think someone has to make a conscious decision, a personal decision, if they want to address that red flag or not. And either way, it's all good. Nothing's right or wrong in this. You're not
I
wrong if you
agree.
do one or right if you do the other. It's a personal choice. If you see too many red flags and you hit the eject, which I've done a million times, no problem. If you want to try to address that and see where the root cause is, that's good because you know what? Maybe you can help them. And if you try to help them and you can't, now you can hit the eject button and it's all good.
I agree. I agree. I think, certain, I mean, again, we have to realize that nobody's perfect,
Yeah.
but it's all about what you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah.
Is it a low threshold? I've been guilty of a low threshold. I've been guilty of a high threshold. Everything's always trial and error.
I've been
You
guilty
know,
of no threshold.
I've been guilty of no threshold. And I think,
Hmm.
one of the things that I think, again, like you said, go back to your non-negotiables. Go
Yeah.
back to, hey, not everyone's perfect, but this is what I'm not willing to tolerate. I may not want to be with somebody who goes out 5 nights a week. I may not want somebody who is in a different industry. I may want somebody who has a healthy lifestyle, or that is more of a homebody, or is more of a, they like golf, or they like boating, or they like whatever it is. It's just,
Who's not a stripper?
who's not a stripper, exactly, and there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that, but it's
No,
just
nothing
one
wrong
of
with
the
that.
things where, you have to go back, and I agree with you. You have to go back to your non-negotiables. You have to
Yeah.
go back to you take stock of yourself and realize, is this the best for me? And Greg, we're gonna kind of put the bow on this here. My last question for you for today is: how do we let go of the other person that may have hurt us or fell short of what we want?
Ghost them.
Yeah.
Just ghost them. No,
Episode
I'm just
episode
kidding.
32.
How do we let them go? Once again, you could have a conversation and do it. I, I mean, to me, and you know me for a long time now, that's not really an issue for me. You can talk to them and be like, listen, this isn't working out. I don't, I wish you well. If you need anything, let me know. I'm here to help. Or if you need any of my resources, it's all good. But, I don't want to continue this type of relationship with you, but I'll be your friend. And I've had successful friendships like that too. So that's how I do it. What about you?
I wish them well from a distance in my head. When
You give them the old
something
Heisman.
ends, sometimes, but I feel like, when someone falls short of my expectations and things do explode, they don't implode, they explode.
Hmm.
And I've never really had anything where it was nice and amicable. It was always like, again, two train wrecks. And
Hmm.
when the explosion hits, it's, gee, I hope that person got out of there safe. Right. So I think you can wish somebody well from a distance, or you can pray for that person, which has been helping me out lately. People that I've had issues with, praying for them, and that's helped out a lot. I think, you don't necessarily need to have I feel like the conversation is good to have, but after that conversation, or after that domino that allows the other dominoes to fall, it's like, well, there's really no need to communicate. I can wish you well from here without actually wishing you well as I'm talking to you right
I like
now.
that. I
So,
like that. Yeah, that's cool.
so that's how I do things, and you can see how successful and where it's gotten me. So, people may not want to listen after this episode because it might be the Greg show after this,
Grand
but
opening, grand closing. That's it.
exactly. Speaking of the Greg show,
Yeah.
the Forever Progress. Give us an update. How's that going, sir?
It's going well, man. Just putting content out and learning the difference between educating and entertaining people. People nowadays want to be entertained. So I'm very educational when it comes to real estate, but I have to start meandering towards entertainment as well.
Whoa.
Big word, Mike.
Big
Big,
word.
big word.
Big
So
word.
I have to start incorporating more entertainment, which out of my comfort zone a little bit on here, but I will do it. My LinkedIn is killing it on go to Greg Tador on LinkedIn or Forever Progress, but I put all my videos up there, YouTube and Instagram. So it's going well. Thank you for asking, sir.
That's
And I want to
awesome.
give a shout out to my boy, Sonny, in Florida. He grew his beard out
Wow.
and it looks fucking dynamite. So I want to give him a big shout out, man. Keep growing that thing. Looking good, sir.
Wow. And speaking along the lines of Sunny,
Mm-hmm.
there was a wrestling manager that I was. I mean, she was the most downloaded woman or figure, I think, in 1995. I'll never forget it because that's when Netscape Navigator came out. You had to plug your stuff into the phone, and it took like forever to download.
Wow.
She was the most downloadable person, and the tragic fall that she has suffered now. She's serving 17 years in a Florida prison
Ooh.
for I believe it was
Ooh.
DUI manslaughter.
Ooh.
So, it's unfortunate
She
that
got 17 years for that?
yeah, because she's been in trouble with the law a
Oh,
lot.
she had priors then, because you're not getting 17 years for that.
A lot of priors,
Man.
and at one point she was, I think, anyone that's in wrestling that's around my age,
Damn.
she was like she was the original diva, I guess, when they started it.
Mm,
And to see her tragic fall now, I mean, she's completely fallen.
damn.
She won't be eligible for parole until she's like in her mid 60s if she lives out. And it's really sad. So for people out there that are going through issues, I mean, you have
Mm.
examples of the choices you can make, right? You can go right, you can go left, you can go down the middle. So hopefully people can look at some of these stories as a way to educate themselves on how to take care of yourself and whatnot. So anyway, just because you brought up Sonny, Greggy T.
How's
Greggy
Trish
T,
Stratus?
I don't know.
How's she doing?
I don't know. I mean, last time I saw her, she looked great. I mean, I think she's in Canada. She's got like 2 kids, I
Oh,
guess.
that's cool.
So but
Good for her.
yeah. So I guess she's doing all right. So, but Greggy T, people that are listening to us, hopefully they won't follow my example, but they'll follow your example.
No, follow Mike's example. Mike is doing good.
Yeah. Uh, where can
Look,
people find
2 different
us?
upbringings, yet we're still here together. So
Here
I
we
don't
are.
think I think it's I don't want to say hope because that's so deep, but it's like, listen, it's all good. There's no victims here.
No, absolutely not.
Whether you grew up one way or another way, you have the choice to create the life that you want. Same with your business, same with your relationships, your friendships. If you want something, you got to go get it and do the work. Figure it out. You can do it.
If you build it, they will come.
Seriously, man. That's it.
We're like different strokes. You're like Willis. I'm like Arnold.
Willis.
You are Willis. I'm Arnold.
Isn't Willis in jail now?
No, he's the only one still alive.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. There you go.
It's sad that they're all dead except for Willis. It's
That's
really
wild,
crazy
man.
to think. And as we wrap this up, like us being products of the '80s, I look at some of my favorite shows, and like, I mean, with Suzanne Summers just passing away,
Wow.
and it's like, damn. I mean, that's an era that's like almost over, and I think about that as like another sign of my mortality, getting older, because like the A-Team, Knight Riders, Silver Spoons, Different Strokes, all Three's Company, Cheers, like. It's wild that these people that grew up on her now, like, they're getting on in life.
Dolly Parton still looks good. She's like 80, right?
God bless her.
That's crazy.
God bless her. God bless her, Greggy T.
I want to give a shout out to OJ. I remember meeting him and shaking his hand 3 a.m. on South Beach. So to the juice, keep it going.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a good place for us to stop.
Great place to stop.
Great place to stop. Greg's got the juice, and we're not talking about testosterone today.
He said I was a really big white boy.
Did he really?
Yes, he did. But his hands engulfed me. I mean, engulfed me. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, random. Nice guy. Take care, Mike.
Yeah, Greggy T.
Take care, kiddo.
Yeah, it's a great place for us to stop. Hopefully, you all enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you. We'll see you next week from the beautiful state of Florida. I am signing off, my friend. Have a great rest of your day.
You as well, everyone. Be safe out there, all right, and be good.